Mora Jr. 13 says, can you explain your understanding of theistic evolution? I saw a video by Inspiring Philosophy and have a hard time accepting this viewpoint. So I don't know for sure what Michael Jones, that's his name. I consider him a friend. I like Michael Jones. There's actually probably a lot we disagree on that are all like secondary issues, not primary issues as Christians, and which is fine. So I'm not, I've even shared some of his videos and stuff, and do share them sometimes because I find many of them very helpful. But he's like I think he's a strong evolutionist, and I'm not sure exactly what he means when he says theistic evolution. But it's not an area of my focus or something I've spent enough time studying to spend a lot of time talking about currently. So you have a hard time accepting this viewpoint. Yeah. So what I would recommend, Mora, is at least what I find compelling personally is a lot of the work done by the guys from the ID movement. ID is short for intelligent design. They get no end of ridicule from others. I think the reason why they get ridiculed so much is because their work is so scientific. If you look at the work of some young earth creationists, it can come off as pretty shallow as far as the depth of research and that sort of thing. And others try to go real deep, but the ID movement, they're actually published, they actually have peer reviewed papers and things like that. Stephen Meyer and Michael Behe and these sorts of guys. I think you could look into their stuff. That's a different view. It's not theistic evolution. They're actually opposed to that. Something else, something for you to consider. What I would say is more, for a lot of you Christians, listening, even non-believers listening, how do I say this? If you want to study these things in real detail, go for it. But if you're not going to study it in real detail, then maybe it's best if you don't have a really strong opinion about it. I say this because after years and years and years of watching debates on these topics online, in person, in different churches dealing with issues, I just say, a lot of people who believe evolution seem to believe it with very little information or understanding of how it works or what it entails. And a lot of people who reject evolution seem to reject it with very little understanding of how it works or what it entails. So that it ends up being a lot of yelling and shouting and big claims, but not necessarily like a lot of heat, but not a lot of light. And so I think you can ask yourself if this is an area that you want to focus on or not. If you feel like you have to have a resolution about it, you have to dig into it. As a Christian, I would say you make your focus understanding the scripture in context. I think most people who are Christians who debate these issues don't pay a lot of attention to the verses that they are quoting on these issues. I'm just being honest, you guys. There's just a lot of heat and not a lot of light. Now, I'm not personally, I don't personally believe that abiogenesis took place in the naturalistic fashion, where you have life coming from non-life being caused by just chemistry. I'm also not convinced in common descent. I think evolution probably did take place to a significant degree. I mean, just a virus alone is evolving all the time. No issue with that. I think that's well evidenced. But even that is a discussion I prefer not to have with people, because we're all just relatively ignorant on this stuff. Yet we all feel really strongly about it. I prefer to stick to the biblical discussions, at least currently. That's my focus now. And I've dug into some of that stuff in the past. Yeah, I'm afraid I'm rambling a bit. I would probably need some time to sit and gather my thoughts and share with you more thoughtfully. Let me just read your question again to see if I maybe offered you any help. Can you explain your understanding of theistic evolution? Okay, my understanding of theistic evolution would be this. Naturalistic progress from at least initial life, possibly from non-life, starting with non-life, all the way to the full diversity of life we have today, without any sort of supernatural intervention along the way. That's how I would describe my understanding of when someone says theistic evolution. Now, in my view, if this was true, it would still be evidence for God, because God would have designed such an incredible set of laws of physics and causal events from the beginning of creation that it would end up sort of dominoes rolling down the hill to cause this effect of all this diversity of life, then I would say this was caused. This was not an accident. But the theistic evolution perspective usually is like, as I understand it, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe a theistic evolution is, no, Mike, we leave lots of room for miracles to happen along the way. That's fine. I'm sorry that I got it wrong. But if you're going to say no miracles happen along the way, I think that then there must have been a really big miracle that happened right at the beginning. And if you say miracles happen along the way, then you don't need as much of a big miracle at the beginning, because it doesn't have to be so carefully structured to force life to happen, right? Because God's intervening miraculously and causing things to happen along the way. I think the fossil record doesn't seem to support, I think, and I could be completely wrong, and this is why I'm not going to debate on this issue, because it's just too much scientific data for me to sift through. I think the fossil record doesn't seem to really support the full theory of universal common descent. So I don't go down that road. Yeah. Even the age of the earth is something I don't really want to debate. I want to look into views and say, okay, would I be able to hold this view and reconcile that with my understanding of Scripture? I'd still be a Christian on whichever view of evolution I took, although the most extreme theistic evolution view would have me going, because I think literal Adam and Eve are pretty important. And so, like, you have guys like William Lane Craig, who's now suggesting that we push biological Adam, real literal biological Adam, ancestor of all humans, and Eve, but we push them back how many hundreds of thousands, 700,000 years, something, some really significant number, at least from our perspective, because he's trying to say, I want to hold fast to these sort of biblical teachings, but I'm also trying to see how that would work with modern evolutionary theory. Yeah, a lot of it's over my head.